House Bill 1, an act relating to child welfare.
Gentleman from Garrett.
Mr. Speaker, I would yield to the gentleman from Lincoln 80 for explanation of Senate amendments and a motion thereon.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lincoln 80 for further explanation of Senate amendments and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. You may remember that House Bill 1 is the Adoption and Foster Care Reform Bill. This is a process that started around a year ago and comes to a conclusion tonight. We've worked tirelessly on this for several months now. We had a great bill that passed out of this House, went down to the Senate, and they have made a great bill even better. I will explain to you some of the changes, but first, Mr. Speaker, if I could, I'd ask the clerk to please report Senate Committee Substitute 1.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 1.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Senate Committee Substitute 1 makes a few changes to this bill. First, in Section 19, we are changing the language where we were changing how the Children's Advocacy Centers and the Cabinet work together to get confidential information back and forth. There was some concern there that that information may fall into the wrong hands and may put the child at risk if it happened to be a parent or someone that had abused them. So they had asked for some changes, and what we have done in this is said that in lieu of them giving all those files and those reports to the Cabinet, they may testify on behalf of that instead of giving that information out. The next thing we do is Section 26, and in that section, it says that a child, this is a section about neonatal abstinence syndrome, drug-addicted babies. There was some concern there that a mother could potentially be in the drug rehab program and on some medicine that is helping them to come off of the drugs that they are on, and that could potentially create a neonatal abstinence syndrome situation. So we have added language in here to say if they were in that program and that was the cause of that would be exempt. We've also extended the days of from 60 days to 90 days for them to enroll in drug treatment. You may recall that if they did not enroll in drug treatment within 60 days, that termination of parental rights would start. We extended that to 90 days because there was some fear of waiting lists. So this should take care of that as well. Section 35 is a section that says, this is new language that will make Kentucky law consistent. Currently, birth parents can already have a court-appointed attorney if they are indigent in cases of termination of parental rights, and what we're doing is adding language that allows them a court-appointed attorney if they are indigent in cases of adoption. Finally, Section 57 says that this new section is added to help facilitate fingerprinting for background checks for potential foster and adoptive parents who are working through a child care facility or child placing agency. What this is there are delays when a foster or adoptive parent applies for background check to run it through the Cabinet. And this just says that they can work directly with the state police, those foster and adoptive agencies, in order to get those background checks back sooner. The ultimate goal of this is, in some states, those agencies have fingerprint machines inside of their agencies, and they can do that rather quickly, get those results back in 24 to 48 hours. This just gives the state police the authority to do what they feel is safe and necessary to speed that process up. So if there be no questions, Mr. Speaker, I would move that the House does concur with Senate Committee Substitute 1.
Motion that the House does concur with Senate Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Those opposed, nay. House does concur with Senate Committee Substitute 1. Gentleman from Lincoln.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that the clerk call Senate Floor Amendment 2.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 1.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This, as you may recall, we passed an amendment out of this body that allowed for de facto custodians to have standing in court. That was broadened a little bit too much, and so what we have done with the agreement from the gentleman from Spencer who had filed the floor amendment in the House, What this does is it just tightens that up to say that it would be those de facto custodians would have standing in cases of abuse and neglect. So if there be no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'd move for concurrence of Senate Floor Amendment 2.
Motion is that the House does concur with Senate Floor Amendment 2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. House does concur with Senate Floor Amendment 2. Gentleman from Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the members of the body know, this is a very important issue to me. We've worked on it for a long time. And this is my reason for being so passionate about it. This is my daughter, Kara. This is my son, Caleb, and my wife, Rebecca. And Caleb has played a very important part in the adoption of Kara, as he helped with her transition when she came home. And they mean everything to me, as I know your families do to you. And this is why we do this job, is to change the lives of people in Kentucky for the better. And so with that said, Mr. Speaker, I will move for final passage of House Bill 1 as amended in the Senate and concurred in by the House.
Question before the body is final passage of House Bill 1 as amended in the Senate and concurred in by the House. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk will sound the chimes. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, no, and the roll call machine is open for your vote. All members voted. Does any member wish to change or explain their vote? Clerk will take the roll. There being 90 members voting aye, 1 member voting no, House Bill 1, as amended in the Senate, concurred in by the House, is finally passed. Gentleman from Lincoln.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the children, the foster and adoptive families across Kentucky, I move for clencher.
Without objection, clencher is applied. Gentleman from Garrett.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that we stand at ease for a minute.
House stand at ease.